Do you think that like stars and get offered that kind of thing, like to compromise themselves sexually for entertainment?
I was as shocked as anybody about how powerful Harvey Weinstein was at the time that I was meeting with him, and how he could not be told no. You follow what I'm saying?
They'll figure out some way.
Right. So I thought that didn't apply to me because I don't care about nothing but bitches and good business, right? In these scary situations, I don't even leave it up to me. Like, I'm gonna do what the superhero would do in this part of the movie, regardless.
That's a good way to think about things in general.
Everything started out looking like just another playful jab on social media. When news broke last September that Diddy had been arrested, Katt Williams instantly posted a meme. Diddy's face edited onto Nino Brown, the iconic villain played by Wesley Snipes in New Jack City. The caption was short but loaded. Diddy's about to snitch on everyone. It was just a joke, but the meme spread like wildfire. Hundreds of thousands of shares, a flood of comments. If anyone's gonna flip, it's Diddy. At first glance, it seemed like Katt was doing what he's known for, cracking jokes, throwing shade, making people laugh. But what really caught people's attention was the timing. The post came right as public suspicion was starting to mount about the dark secrets behind the glittering image of Sean Combs, aka Diddy. His arrest wasn't just a typical civil or criminal case. It opened the floodgates to a string of allegations involving abuse, coercion, and wild, secretive parties involving numerous celebrities. Suddenly, Katt's meme wasn't just a gag. It was the first spark that got the media digging deeper. And more importantly, it made the public go back and re-examine everything he'd ever said, every name he'd ever dropped. In old podcasts and stand-up sets, Katt had thrown out jokes that sounded more like warnings. He'd name-drop big industry players like Tyler Perry, Ricky Smiley, Steve Harvey, Ludacris, and more recently Jay-Z, Aaron Hall, even Harv Pierre, a senior executive at Bad Boy Records. Back then, most people thought Katt was just bitter or seeking attention after being pushed out of Hollywood. But weirdly enough, just a few months later, those exact names started showing up in the documents related to Diddy's lawsuit. What once sounded like wild rants suddenly seemed like chilling breadcrumbs. Katt Williams wasn't rambling. He had been laying mines this whole time, and now the world was finally stepping on them. From a meme to a media storm, the tone shifted fast. No one was laughing anymore. And Katt Williams, once written off as a crazy eccentric, was suddenly dead center in a scandal that could blow up the carefully manicured image of an entire generation of Black Hollywood stars. For over a decade, Katt Williams has been both a symbol of eccentricity in comedy and a thorn in the side of mainstream showbiz. He's famous not only for his sharp, sarcastic performances, but also for saying things so brutally honest that people don't even want to hear them. Every time Katt takes the stage or sits down for an interview, audiences brace themselves, not just for laughs, but for the verbal bombs he's about to drop. He'll go after anyone, from Steve Harvey to Jay-Z, with zero hesitation. Years ago, those comments were dismissed as the bitter ramblings of a washed-up comic, a man who'd been in and out of jail and couldn't find his footing in Hollywood anymore. But now, as wave after wave of accusations are aimed at Diddy and those in his orbit, the things Katt used to say, things once labeled as unhinged, are starting to look like dead-on clues, chilling in their accuracy. In a recent interview on Club Shay Shay, Katt opened up about a decision very few in the entertainment industry would dare to make. He revealed that he had turned down no less than 4 offers worth over $50 million just to keep his integrity and his untouched butthole, as he bluntly put it.
Who gonna turn down $50 million? Now, I've had to turn down $50 million 4 times just to protect my integrity and that virgin hole I was telling you about. Right, because P. Diddy be wanting to party. And you gotta tell him no. You got to tell him no. I did.
To some, that might sound crass or offensive, but to longtime fans, it was classic Katt, using raw language to expose the ugly underbelly of Hollywood, a world where fame and obedience are often traded at lavish, secretive parties. He went on to talk about a time when he almost ruined a lot of careers, having written a script that called out big names by exposing their secrets. But in the end, he said, he decided to just throw soft punches, just enough so that those involved would know he had the receipts. It wasn't a threat. It was a coded warning, like Katt's been playing this long game of leaving public clues, and now that lawsuits, testimonies, and real allegations are surfacing, people are going back and listening to those old recordings with fresh ears. This isn't just comedy anymore. It's starting to sound like a living, breathing investigation. The real question is, how does Katt know all this? Some believe that Katt was once on the inside, that he got the invitation, stood on the doorstep of Hollywood's so-called power parties, and chose not to walk in. Instead, he took a different path. He bought an old military base, Fort McClellan, and used it to shoot his own projects, without asking big studios for a dime. In an industry where just wearing a dress on stage can be seen as part of a twisted initiation ritual, Katt made his stance crystal clear. I don't wear dresses. I don't need to be famous like that. At the time, people accused him of being homophobic or extreme.
I heard that you bought a military base in Alabama. Is that true? A military base?
As starving comedians would do.
Now, I don't know if you're being truthful or not. Did you really buy one?
Yeah, Fort McClellan. Yeah,
What?
because the reason why like my life works in golf and off the golf course is because I follow instruction well, right? So if I see somebody do a good job, I just want to do a good job.
Yeah.
I'm going to follow the example.
Yeah.
Right? So Tyler Perry got a military base.
That's correct.
Made it into a movie studio and started making movies. Katt Williams.
Bought a military base. Are you making movies?
I'm not wearing dresses. Yeah.
But today, for many, those words sound more like the manifesto of someone who saw the price of entry and refused to pay with his dignity. No one knows how much of Katt's story is fact and how much is colored by experience. But one thing is undeniable. The man has never backed down, never apologized. And now that the very names he once cryptically referenced are starting to show up in actual indictments, it's getting harder to call him crazy. In fact, Katt Williams might be the only one who's been awake this whole time, in a town that's been pretending not to hear a thing. In Hollywood, extravagant parties aren't anything new. But the rumors surrounding Diddy's parties have always gone far beyond luxury and hedonism. They veer into the bizarre, the murky, and even the criminal. For years, Sean Diddy Combs was known for throwing exclusive gatherings that catered to the elite. Artists, CEOs, A-list athletes, and even some mystery guests tagging along. People used to laugh at sayings like, "What happens at Diddy's party stays at Diddy's party." But now, with testimony from former assistant Rodney, Lil Rod Jones, and a mountain of new allegations, those same parties are being talked about in a much darker tone, and no one's laughing anymore. Rodney didn't just accuse Diddy of hosting drug-fueled, sexually charged parties with elements of coercion. He also claimed that every single one of those events was secretly recorded. Hidden cameras everywhere. Guests thought they were partying in complete privacy, but according to Rodney, they were being filmed from multiple angles, and no one knows where those tapes are, who holds them, or when they might be released. For a celebrity, one damning clip could be career-ending. But for politicians, investors, or media moguls, those tapes could become blackmail weapons. And Rodney wasn't the only one talking. Katt Williams had described those parties years ago. In a stand-up set nearly a decade back, he told a story about walking through a mansion and seeing every kind of sex act happening around every corner. People laughed then. But now that other witnesses are echoing those same details, what once seemed like outrageous comedy suddenly feels disturbingly real. What's even more telling is how many celebrities have alluded to the weirdness of these parties. Without ever going into detail, maybe they were scared. Maybe they were under some kind of gag order. LeBron James once joked, "Ain't no party like a Diddy party." Ashton Kutcher, in an interview, said, "I can't talk about what happens there." At the time, those comments seemed like harmless banter. But now they're being clipped and dissected in YouTube exposés. viewed as pieces of a larger puzzle, a kind of social proof that the entire industry knew and kept quiet. What makes this whole situation truly terrifying isn't just the depravity of the parties themselves, it's the scale of information control. Those tapes could be used to silence celebrities, to protect a music empire, or worse, to sustain a power network that stretches far beyond entertainment. And with Rodney claiming that Universal Music Group knew and approved of what was happening, this no longer looks like Diddy's personal scandal, it's a systemic problem. And now, it all circles back to the parties, the places that used to be seen as jokes, but may have been secret hunting grounds all along. The real question is, how many people went to those parties and are now living in fear that the footage will come out?
Tyler Perry told his male actors they're not allowed to consort with me because I saw you at a Diddy party, Tyler. And you were having a glorious time. I spent a lot of time in Miami, and I snuck around Star Island quite a bit. I know Christian isn't lying, but I need him to tell me what happened to my friends. And I don't care how long it's been since I talked to them, they will always be my friends. Always. Tim and Durrett and Lamont Rucker were not the same after they went on camera with Tyler Perry. Christian, I think you can tell me why.
Tyler Perry has long been celebrated as a shining example of the American dream for the Black community, from homeless to billionaire, from indie playwright to the owner of the biggest film studio in Atlanta. But behind all the applause and glamour, Katt Williams quietly hinted at something else, that maybe Perry's seemingly self-made rise had some powerful help that nobody wants to talk about from Diddy. Katt claims that during Perry's early years, when he was still hustling small touring plays, it was Diddy's team that helped him launch. They backed Perry's first major premieres in New York and Los Angeles. They helped with promotions, sent out VIP invites to big names in the entertainment world, and transformed his modest shows into full-blown industry events. These are details that mainstream media has largely ignored, preferring to focus on the lone wolf, rags to riches image of Tyler Perry. But once again, Katt Williams chose to challenge the fairy tale. The connection between Perry and Diddy gets even more controversial when Katt brings up a comparison that still stirs debate. Why is it that the most successful Black men in Hollywood, except Denzel and Samuel L. Jackson, have all had to wear dresses? Katt wasn't just talking about Perry, he was calling out a pattern. And Perry's case stands out because he built his empire around the Medea character, a loud, funny, elderly Black woman played by Perry himself in a dress and wig.
He was so egregious, I put in my contract that I won't work with Ricky Smiley again unless he's in a dress. Now, what was Ricky Smiley's next movie? Was it First Sunday? Did he wear a dress in it? You bet he did. It's in my contract. That's why I can't let Ricky Smiley say he was supposed to play Money Mike, because I wrote the words for Money Mike. I put in my contract that I won't work with Ricky Smiley again unless he's in a dress. Now, what was Ricky Smiley's next movie? Was it First Sunday? Did he wear a dress in it? You bet he did. It's in my contract.
Why would you put that in your contract, Katt?
That's where he's a believable actor. Him and Tyler Perry can't play a man to save their life. They play good women, and I believe that the best actor should be in the best role.
To Katt, this wasn't about acting range or creative expression. It was about submission. He saw it as an initiation ritual in Hollywood, doing something you'd never choose to do, just to earn a place at the table. When Katt constantly repeated that he won't wear a dress, it wasn't about gender roles or homophobia like critics claimed. It was a declaration. He refused to be part of a system built on silent compromise. And maybe that explains why, despite his talent, Katt Williams keeps getting sidelined, shut out of awards shows, ignored by big studios, and left off the A-list. Meanwhile, Tyler Perry kept rising. He bought an old military base and turned it into the largest film studio in America, attracting even major Hollywood players to come work with him. His career, by all PR standards, is the blueprint of the American dream. But for those paying close attention, strange coincidences start to emerge. The quiet link to Diddy, the unusually fast climb in an industry notorious for gatekeeping independent Black creators, and his absolute silence in the face of mounting allegations against people he's worked with. When Katt raised those questions, he wasn't asking the public to take his side. He was just laying out the puzzle pieces. But now, as investigations into Diddy expand and the entertainment world begins to re-examine its relationships, the question Katt posed years ago is gaining new relevance. Did Tyler Perry really rise on his own? Or has he just been playing by the rules of the people pulling the strings?